Hey, Eliza. Hey, Gabby. Hey, Lauren.
Hi.
I know. Hi to all the people I haven't
Hey,
met
everyone
before.
else as well.
Hi.
Do you guys want to just everybody do a quick little, oh, there's Tyler. Do you guys want to do a quick little introduction?
Yeah.
Sure.
Hey everybody, I'm Max. I'm a game designer from Chicago. So I'm probably best known for making the game Cards Against Humanity. But I'm a longtime Survivor fan, and I love puzzles. I love like the social game of Survivor. I love it as a game designer. So I've been working with my friends Jordan and Simon. We made this cool jigsaw puzzle that we have like a Kickstarter up for it right now. And we've kind of discovered that there's this, we're Survivor fans, and we've kind of discovered there's this huge crossover puzzle fan and Survivor fan communities. So we just kind of thought it would be fun to, we knew Peih-Gee, and Peih-Gee play tested our puzzles with us. And we thought it'd be fun to get everyone together and talk about puzzles, talk about Survivor, make our predictions for Winners at War. And we'll keep it quick and just do a chat that we can share with our backers. I think they'll be it's going to come as a surprise to them, and I think they're going to be pretty delighted.
Jordan?
Jordan, you want to go next?
Yeah, I'm Jordan. I'm a magician from Los Angeles, and I met Max at a game convention. And actually, I met Max through Elan Lee, and I've been designing magical things for Elan and his company Exploding Kittens. And Max turned me on to Survivor as well, and me and my wife became super hooked on it. So we've been just playing massive catch up like in the last year.
Wait, Jordan, tell them your wife's connection to Survivor.
Which one? She has which one specifically?
Max.
Wife?
What?
Which
wife?
How many wives have you got?
No, which connection does which one of my wives? I have many.
You always, magicians saw them in half, right? So you have to have backups.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
It's honestly amazing that a magician has any wives.
Max Dawson.
Oh yes, so Meredith is my wife. Her professor in college was Max Dawson. And so we were very excited to see his season. And then I met Peih-Gee through a friend of a friend, and we were hanging out, and Peih-Gee says, this was like deep into the puzzle creation process. I met Peih-Gee one night, and I just happened to say, hey, are you into puzzles at all? Like, do you do jigsaw puzzles? And she said, I'm a huge jigsaw fanatic. And that sort of like set all this in motion. Turns out we had all these friends in common, and my wife knew Peih-Gee's friend Max, who I guess that's the connection there. So there's this very weird moment where it's like two strangers and then entire worlds just collapse, and we're like, oh, how are we not friends already? So
Jordan, when you said Max's season, you meant my season, right? You misspoke.
Correct. That is what I meant to say. What did I say?
I think you said Tyler's season. So
oh yeah, that's what I heard. So perfect.
Gotcha.
Most people know it as the Tyler Fredrickson season.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's what they call Survivor, the Tyler Fredrickson show. That Tyler Fredrickson show on CBS.
Rick, do you want to go next?
Yeah, first, Jordan, I noticed that there was something behind your ear.
Ooh.
Hey-o.
There we go.
Little magic myself. And Max, thank you for literally the biggest faux pas I've ever made with my in-laws. I think there's an understanding when you play Cards Against Humanity that like everyone's in and you're all the way in, and that was not the case. And I went way overboard, so thanks for that. I was on season 38 of Survivor, the Edge of Extinction. It was a theme that was universally beloved by everyone. And especially Eliza. And I got to come back and just find a lot of idols and have a lot of fun. And I got all the way to the final four, but I lost fire making and went home. Otherwise, man, I would have whooped somebody in the final three.
Rick, also internet famous for the clip of him dodging the Bernie Sanders graphic. Have you guys all seen that? It's very funny.
I'm happy to be known for that as well. Yes.
Simon, I think you're up.
Yeah, can everyone hear me? I've got a weird microphone going on. I'm Simon. I'm the 4th member of the Magic Puzzle Company. Worked on the design of it. Former and still magician, but not really working right now, pandemics and whatnot. And I'm the odd one out because even though it sounds great, and I'm meaning to, I've never actually seen an episode of Survivor. And I'm a complete newbie virgin. So it sounds good. I just haven't got around to it yet. I've mostly heard Jordan and Max just raving about it and talking tactically about it.
We have a lot of fun understanding that we can't spoil anything for Simon because he has no context for anything. So during Winners at War, Max and I, we're on a call talking about puzzles, and all of a sudden we just go like full fire hose back and forth about Survivor, and Simon's just sitting there like, this is fine.
I assume this is fascinating, and I look forward to eventually understanding this. So.
Just start with my
Eliza?
season. My season's very simple and easy to understand.
I like it.
Eliza, I think you're up.
They keep telling me to try David versus Goliath as the first one,
Oh.
but I'll take that.
Good choice.
That's an excellent
on
season
board.
to start with also.
It's part of the extended Tyler Fredrickson universe.
So watch David versus Goliath and PG season. Those are the two.
They're just sequels.
Yeah.
Which season was it where they had Tyler's head out on the island?
That's season 41. I just did the rotoscoping or whatever it is called for the. That's not what it's called, but yeah, it's coming out.
I believe that was Island of the Tylers, if I'm not
Island
mistaken.
of
Yeah.
Eliza,
Did you guys see the new doc?
Go next for an
Did you guys see
intro?
the new documentary on Netflix, The Tyler King? It's really good. You guys should check it out.
Hey,
Miles, you
is
made
there.
it.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey. Well,
What's
why
up,
don't you
Miles?
introduce yourself? We're doing the rounds of introducing ourselves, but since you're here, why don't you go?
Hi, I'm Miles, pronouns he, him, and I'm a game designer and game player, a challenge consultant for Survivor, Jordan Gold fan, yeah, is that enough?
Yep, that was perfect.
A fun fact is Miles and I met at the very first like professional event I ever went to for games things. I was very young, and there was like a house party that I got invited to, and at some point the party got so out of control that the cops were called, and when they showed up, what was happening was a bunch of completely sober people had baskets tied to the top of their head, and they were all trying to throw bean bags into the baskets. And it had created such a scene on the street that the neighbors called the police. So that was how
We
I met
like to have a
Miles.
good time. That's funny. I thought you were going to tell the story of the time that the cops came to shut down Edgar Rice soiree. Do you remember that?
Yes, I also was there for that. I think I was, yes.
My fun fact about Miles before we move off of that is Miles I find better than any internet resource for Survivor trivia. Like I go to this guy and say, hey Miles, how many contestants on Survivor have ever had the same first name? And he'll just rattle them off without even thinking about it. It's insane.
I have a deep bench of trivia about Survivor.
I met Miles because Miles took me to my very first escape room.
Ooh.
Was it
Yeah.
your first? Oh
That
my
was my
gosh.
first one, and he took me to the hardest room in like all of LA.
Did you get
What
out?
room
I
did we
gotta
do,
know.
PG?
I gotta know which one.
We started with Pandora's.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
that's the hard one.
yeah, that was
Brian-
Yumi and
Brian's-
Max, right?
Yes, the
Yeah.
three of
Mhm.
us, which is like a 10-person room. That and it, yeah. That
We
was
did
my
not
very-
get out.
We did not get out of that one, but that is like for at least a year, that was the only room I had not escaped from. But also, so like the story that Miles told me when we met of how he became a Survivor Challenge designer was, I think you said you just kept emailing John. What's his last name?
Verhoefer.
Yeah. So he kept emailing him with suggestions and ideas for different challenges. And I think John finally was like, what do you want? Like a job? He was like, what? Like, these are great, but like, what, and he was like, is that on the table? I think, is it?
It was just one. It was just one email, and it was meant to be like, maybe we can get coffee and talk. What I didn't know at the time that I did that was really good was I sent him one email, but it was really short. And I guess as a result of that, he followed up. And yeah, he invited me to come in and pitch ideas as a consultant. And some of the ideas that I brought in that interview went on to the show. The one that I like to think about, I see Eliza is on the call. This is a we're rallying to get her elected DA, right? That's the reason why we're here. That's the purpose of that's the agenda for today.
This is a fundraiser for me. You guys didn't know?
Okay, all right. I got it. Well, let me Venmo you real quick. There was I had seen, because I'm a fan of Survivor first and foremost, and I was watching the show and I saw that they would sometimes have practical props that were puzzle pieces. First it was ladders, and they had a bunch of ladders you had to assemble as a puzzle. And then in Cook Islands, when they put together boats as a puzzle, I was like, oh, okay. So it's not just ladders, it can be a whole category, practical props that could be assembled as puzzles. I wonder what else it could be. Ladders, boats, what else could go on that list? And I thought, well, what about wheels? What if you have to put together puzzle wheels and put them on a cart? That was an idea that I pitched, and that was before Survivor 15 and 16. And so then when that was the first challenge of Micronesia, of fans versus favorites, that was the one that the favorites lost. And so I like to say that I am responsible for getting John Dalton voted out first of fans versus favorites. Because the favorites tribe lost the challenge that I contributed. That's how it works, right? Cause and effect.
We'll take any excuse, I think.
It's awesome to hear that process as somebody who got in super late into Survivor, thanks to Max and Elan. Because when I started watching David versus Goliath and I saw the puzzles, I'm like, oh, I get it. It's like puzzles themed around, like all this stuff. It made so much sense to me. And then I went back to watch this season 1, and I was like, what's happening? They're like running around in the dirt. Like, this doesn't make any sense to me. So it's cool that, like, I never thought, like, yeah, somebody you had to be like, yeah, let's figure out how to make this in a way that, like, connects to what's going on.
Eliza, do you wanna go next for an intro?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Eliza. I was on Survivor season 9 and 16, but I've never missed an episode. So Simon, I highly recommend you just start catching up. Just start from season 1, episode 1, and just you just have 20 years of Survivor to catch up on. So yeah, I've been a huge fan since I watched episode 1 of season 1, and I remember watching it, and I said to my mom, I'm going to be on that show. Like, oh, I'm going on that show. And she was like, of course you are, sweetheart. And now she tells people, be careful what you tell your kids because they believe you. And she's like, I had it in my AOL Instant Messenger bio. I don't know if you guys are all too young to have had AIM.
Oh, no.
But I literally wrote future Survivor 9 contestant because I calculated which season I would be eligible to apply for. And that was the first one that I'd be eligible for. As soon as I turned 21, I filmed an audition video, sent it in, got cast. And I was cast as the nerd. I mean, back in the day, they didn't, that was just, I was like, they were like, so Eliza, are you going to like flirt your way into what alliances? And I was like, no. Like, that's just not me at all. Like, so I love puzzles. I love logic games. Like, I grew up on puzzles. I have a puzzle that I just got. It's 100 years of voting. It's women's suffrage anniversary this year. So I have literally a round puzzle of women sitting like right next to me that I'm about to start to take the stress away from my campaign, because as I've spent far more of my life in front of a judge and in the trenches of a courtroom as a public defender for over a decade than I ever did in front of cameras on reality TV shows. But I fought against this cruel, unjust criminal legal system for over 10 years and realized that we can't change the system unless we change our DA. So I'm running for Manhattan District Attorney. So that has been consuming my whole life right now. I'm campaigning in a way that I never anticipated, i.e. we're doing Zoom events instead of in-person fundraisers and knocking on doors and shaking hands with people. And so I think campaigning will be forever changed. But I'm a total puzzle addict. I used to actually go in with Kierhofer before challenges. Like when we would do the walkthroughs, I'd be like, so you got a hard puzzle for me this time, John? Like you gonna get me? Like bring it. And he's like, Eliza, this one's so tough. It's so tough. And afterwards I'd be like, really? That's all you got? That's the best you've got? Like, we would go back and forth on the puzzles constantly because I just like loved them. And everyone would say, they were like, we know when Eliza's close to solving a puzzle, because like I would be like jitter, like my whole body like would be shaking. I'd be like, oh my God, you guys, I think I got, like they would just know when I had it. Yeah, I didn't get to participate in the wheel puzzle because they wanted me as one of the smallest members to be in the cart. And that meant that I couldn't help construct the wheels, which, you know, I probably cost us the challenge.
You also, in Vanuatu, you competed in low-key, one of my favorite individual challenges, the Memory Mosaic game.
Which I won.
Do you have any? Yeah. So not surprising that it stood out in your memory. And like, I really like that challenge. I found it very inspirational. So when I came into the challenge room, I brought in like a number of ideas that were sort of inspired by that. And turns out a lot of people, viewers and production, find that category of challenge too boring. So they were like, don't bring any more ideas like this. I was like, oh, okay. Thanks for not liking the thing I like.
Well, I love them.
Some people just have no standards. That's, what do you do?
Lauren, you wanna do an intro?
Sure. I'm Lauren. I was on season 39, Island of the Idols. Simon, if you want to skip that season and go straight to 40, I would understand that. I also lost 4th place, fire loser. And yeah, it was the best experience of my life. Best thing I've ever done. So, and I'm happy to be here with all of you.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Gabby.
Yeah, hi guys. I'm Gabby Pascuzzi. I was on season 38, 37. I don't even know what season, David versus Goliath.
I was like, Gabby, were you on my season?
I know.
How long was I on the edge?
I feel like we know each other, Rick. So, like I think every other player on this call, I was a fan before I tried out to be on the show. Like everyone on this call, my favorite part is the strategy, the social maneuvering, the puzzles. In my real life, I'm a huge puzzle geek as well, with jigsaw, escape rooms. I mean, I grew up, you know, being 10 years old, playing like Flash, point and click, escape the rooms. And I've just always loved that kind of thing. So super geeked to be here. It's going to be really cool. I'm excited to see what all is going on.
I like how everyone nerded out when you said point and click flash rooms. Everyone's like, yeah, that's.
I know. I just have to. I have to show Eliza that I think I'm the youngest person here, but I had an AOL too. So you know, I was on the internet in the 2000s.
Gabby, what was your Gabby? What was your screen name? I had one too.
It was like Cool Gabs or something with a Z. It always has to be
with a Z.
Capital Z.
Let's all go around the horn and do our AOL screen names.
I was Mr. Monkey T.
Why?
I was Lucky 420, of course.
I love that.
Mine was Crix15, C-R-I-X. 15 was the number I wore when I was playing soccer, and Crix was named after Crix Nadine from Star Wars, one of the generals who led the battle of the second Death Star.
Okay, that's pretty good nerd cred.
Nerd alert!
That's good nerd cred.
Wow. I mean, I wasn't ragging on all these puzzle people, but that was just too far.
Happy to be here.
I don't remember mine. I think it was Pigeon Fiend. But I don't really remember.
This has become my new favorite get to know you icebreaker activity. I'm going to use this in all the Zooms going forward.
I just remember my way message was always like, what's going on tonight?
Mine was just E. Orlins. I think my mom should have realized that as a young kid, I shouldn't have been in chat rooms being like ASL with like my last name involved. I mean, I was definitely not, that was ill-advised, but yeah, that was.
She knew you were running for public, she knew you were going to run for public office one day.
Elan, you want to do a quick intro?
Sure. My name is Elan Lee. I'm a game designer. Let's see, started out doing all digital games. I was the chief design officer for the Xbox and did a whole bunch of video games, and then decided to step away from screens for a little bit. So I designed a game called Exploding Kittens, and I'm still running that company. And just a huge, ridiculous, massive puzzle fan, escape room fan, specifically Survivor fan. I think it's the absolutely best designed game on television, and has been forever. So I am very excited to talk about Survivor for as long as you people will tolerate it.
Tyler, I think you're up.
Yeah, Tyler Fredrickson from season 30. We were worlds apart, white collar, blue collar, no collar, known for bullying mainly. I'm a big Jordan fan, and Peih-Gee and Jordan know how much I love playing games, and especially escape rooms. I'm kind of surprised at the people that were asked to be on this, considering how bad I know Rick Devens is at puzzles. I wasn't really sure why he was invited, but
3 of my 4 Immunity wins were puzzles, Tyler Fredrickson.
I really don't remember. But
well, apparently Myles does. So can you confirm this, Myles?
Confirm. Fact check.
Excited to be here. So thanks for the invite, Peih.
And Peih-Gee, you got us all together. Will you introduce yourself as well? I think everyone here knows you, but.
Absolutely.
That is lucky 420.
Exactly. My name is Peih-Gee Law. I was on Survivor 15, Survivor China, and Survivor Second Chances. I was 31. I was actually not a huge Survivor fan before I got on. I just wasn't a TV person because I spent all of my time reading and playing games and doing puzzles. So I think a small fun fact is, so Yul Huan, who is on this season, I knew him before I went on China, and I called, well, I didn't know him, but like I got his number somehow and we talked. And one of the main advice that he gave me before I went out there, he was like, listen, you guys are going to be at the base camp for like a week before the game starts. And, you know, he's like, you don't get to talk to each other, but you'll still see each other, you know, like eating and whatnot. He's like, the game starts there. So he's like, you need to be aware constantly of how the image that you're projecting when you're there. You need to take note of everybody, start writing notes on everyone, like what you think they're like. And like, he was giving me all this information. He was getting all up in my head about it. And so I was so worried about being the first one voted out because I knew it was kind of small and scrawny and I don't know, I felt really inadequate. So I spent my entire time at lunchtime doing like Sudokus and other puzzles because I wanted to really put it in people's heads that like I would be the puzzle person. Like, you got to keep me around because I'm going to be the puzzle person, whatever, you know, I'm not big and strong. And I think it backfired because when we finally got to the merge, a couple different people told me that I was the first person they wanted to vote out at the merge because they were like, we were convinced you were some kind of like puzzle genius. All you did was these Sudokus. And we were like, we need to vote you out right away because of that. So now it's like overcompensated for my insecurity from the Sudokus. And that's also where that one line, I guess, came from, because that's all I could think of. I'd been spending like weeks doing Sudokus beforehand. So that's, yeah. And thanks for having us. I'm so glad we could all get together. Yeah. Like, I'm big fans of all of your games and all of the things that you guys have designed. So this is really exciting for me too.
Well, I put together just like a couple of topics, but if people I'm happy to, like, we could answer questions about game design or puzzles or just chat or whatever. But one of the things I thought would be fun to ask is, like, so Simon mentioned he's never seen an episode of Survivor. Does anyone want to explain what Survivor is and like make the pitch, like sell Simon on Survivor?
I vote Myles.
I was going to say, I think Elan just did that though.
Yeah, exactly.
He just said it was the greatest game that ever existed or something. And I seconded.
I'm like, damn, that's what I would have said about Magic the Gathering formally, but damn.
There was an amazing moment, like probably 2 days ago when Max and I were talking and we're like, wait a minute, we came up with the idea for this call, and once we sort of got the idea of what we wanted to do, Simon's like, All right, I got I got to go watch like all the seasons like tonight, and it was a lot of fun.
We'll be back.
Well, what I think I've noticed about sort of what makes it so intriguing is that if you think about every single aspect of what you like about different types of puzzles and games, Survivor has little bits of all of that. So there's different puzzles. There's jigsaw type puzzles. There's scavenger hunt type puzzles. There's even puzzles where there's a clue and you have to figure out what it's, like association puzzles. There's a social deduction. There's a social deduction element. So like a game like Werewolf or something else like that, where somebody's lying, somebody's got to be lying, somebody's telling the truth. You have to figure out which one it is. So I feel like every type of popular game, every category out there, there is some element of that Survivor has, like when you play it.
And Simon, everyone's in their underwear.
Exactly. And we're suffering.
That could, I mean, Rick, that could be a plus or a minus depending on the person in question. I mean,
well, just look around this room. I mean, it's a pretty major plus. Yeah, I mean, you had me out there. I was next to Chris Underwood. I was getting a lot of positive feedback. And Joe Engel. Thanks, CBS.
It's worth saying, like what Peih-Gee just said is really important. Simon, I'm gonna address this directly to you again. That was all really important because all of that is the input. Like the show is about the output, and the output is the human-to-human interaction. All of the stuff, all the puzzles, all the environment, the setup is just the input into the system. It's the raw materials, and everything outputs to the way that one human must treat another human by process of this voting mechanic that's inserted, using all of that input. And that's really, for me, the entertainment value is like cram as much raw stuff, raw materials in there as possible, because it's all going to get churned and grinded up into this beautiful human-to-human interaction that is just so compelling to watch.
I like it.
I was thinking the same thing. My favorite thing about Survivor is it has the scaffolding. It has general rules and expectations where okay, there's going to be a challenge. One person's going to be immune, or one tribe is going to be immune. There's going to be somebody voted out. There's general scaffolding, but everything in between is kind of up to the players. So you never get the same season twice. Obviously, that's why it's been on for 40 years. And so in terms of, if you're talking in game terms, replayability is extremely high, and Jeff and the Survivor teams sometimes get a hard time from fans when they try new twists that fans aren't on board with right away. But I mean, you kind of have to defend them in the sense that at least they are trying, and it does keep it fresh. And 40 seasons later, you don't know what to expect when you tune in. So I love that aspect of it.
Yeah, that makes me, what both of you said makes me think about as sort of a game design enthusiast my entire life, about this thing of how simple rules that encourage emergent complexity rather than inbuilt complexity. The former is usually much better for an interesting experience for everyone.
One of the things I like about Survivor too, from like a gameplay and game design perspective, is it started off, season 1, and there wasn't a lot of rules or conventions, and everyone just kind of got dropped on this island, and they sort of had to figure out what they were doing, and the game sort of had to be invented for the first time. And so people had to vote someone out, and so they would say things like, well, that person's not contributing at camp, they're not like helping gather wood, and so they're not a good person to have, and so they would get rid of them. And there was this polite fiction of why you were getting rid of people. And over the years, every once in a while, someone comes in, or there's one cast or one season where all the conventions go out the window, and the game kind of gets turned upside down. And now the game is at a place where I don't think people even have a fiction. They're just like, yeah, this person could win. They're a threat. I got to get rid of them. And it's been really interesting to see the gameplay, the meta game like evolve. And you just every once in a while, you just get that player who like they're like 5 years ahead of everyone else in terms of gameplay. And
it is fun. I'd be curious what you all other survivors think, because I was having this talk not too long ago that I think the biggest influence on a Survivor season is the last Survivor season that was on before you went out. Like for us, it was Ghost Island. And we, like when we went out there, it was like no one wanted to be the person who just let big threats go by and never stood up to them. And that was the entire Edge of Extinction game, was just like take out a big threat as soon as they emerge. Does that reflect what you guys had?
I think so, but also an element that I think that hasn't been addressed, that Simon, I assume you know this because it's one of the like basic premises of the game, but it was something that I found so interesting and why I wanted to be on the show and loved the show from so early on, which is that to win the game, you have to get the people who you voted out to vote for you. Yeah. So you have to have such a management of other human beings that even in the midst of like building this society together, coexisting, you know, creating a functional system where you are all feeding together and sleeping together and keeping each other alive, essentially. We didn't get given food on either of my seasons, so now it's like you get rice, you get all this stuff. Like we truly survived off the land, and then they decided it's not that fun to watch people starve and have their hair come out in clumps anymore. So like they've changed the premise of the show a little bit because you're exhausted and makes you lazy and not want to go hunt for hidden.
I thought this was all shot in a soundstage.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's like, but you were wearing makeup at tribal council. I'm like, I'll tell the lighting department that you said so. Like,
to sort of piggyback off of what Rick, I'm sorry, Eliza, did I interrupt you? Okay.
No, but I think what I'm saying is it's just so interesting that then you have to get people to vote for you after voting them out. Like, you know, the human dynamics of it were always so fascinating to me.
To sort of piggyback on what Rick was saying, we only saw 3 episodes of his season before, but it was very much like, oh, Jack looks like Joe Anglim, and this person looks like this person. So just saying something like that can put that thing in your mind. Jack and Joe are nothing alike, but automatically, because they have that Fabio hair and that thing is put on him right off the bat, you're like, oh, Jack's gotta go. It can be that simple, which is so crazy.
Storytelling, I feel like that's kind of what you're describing, is like storytelling is such a huge thing on Survivor, which is Peih-Gee was saying with social deduction types of games, which is one of my favorite genres. You know, just pointing at people and casting a story onto them can have a change on the, back to what Rick was saying too, the story of the season prior might be something that's on players' minds that they're either trying to avoid or maybe imitate. And the meta game is such a prominent thing, I think, in Survivor lore. Like Survivor fans talk about the meta game, and so many players nowadays are such super fans that they are thinking like very meta.
It gets very.
Did any of you ever follow Edgic?
Yeah.
I remember.
So I used to be like a contributor to Edgic back in the day on Survivor Sucks. Like this is, and I couldn't believe that like I was like OTTN. I was like, how is this possible? Like, how could I have ended up like, you know, and I thought I was gonna be PPP. Like, anyhow, so for the real Survivor people who follow like Survivor Edgic, I just wanted to like throw that out there and just say that like as a viewer and like seeing the edits that people get versus like, you know, the thinking about it from a fan perspective, and then being out there and having the actual experience of it and watching yourself back and being like, oh my God, how could that be? Like,
Simon,
this is
I watched every episode and I was on a season and I have no idea what Eliza said. So don't feel like you're out of it.
We might need a definition.
Eliza, I remember, because I'm from back in the day of Sucks. So I remember like what Edgic is and all of that.
Does anyone remember the follow the star thread that predicted Ethan's win before Africa was over? Does anybody know what I'm talking about? No? All right, we found a deep cut.
That's a deep cut, and I thought I knew all the deep cuts, so I'm intrigued. But
so Edgic stands for it's a mixture of editing and strategic, I think, and basically rated you as a player, and there were all these different ratings, and like CP was a complex personality, OTT was over the top, and then you got positive or negative, and you got SPV, which was second person visibility. So people talking about you, you know, it would be like Eliza was talked about by every single other person in this episode in a negative way. Everyone said she's either annoying or she sucks or like she did badly in a challenge. And so I had like excess, you know, N, OTTN, I don't know. Just
it was a method of predicting the winner based on the type of editing that you got, right? So too overly positive or overly negative was usually viewed as a non-winner edit. You would have to have appropriate complexity, but mostly on the positive side.
This is the stuff contestants are dealing with, Simon.
God,
Rick, it's just Enneagrams. It's
Eliza, do
Enneagram
you
for
think
Survivor.
now when you watch modern Survivor, do you ever get the sense that the show is editing in a way to like purposely mess with the editing with the like edgic people? Like they're like the shows become very like arch and like they're playing little games now with the edit of like they'll show everyone searching for the idol and then cut to the guy who has it. Like that's very new. Survivor has only done that in the last couple seasons.
The editing has changed a ton. I think it's so interesting to watch it from a perspective of someone who's watched it for 20 years, because I think now there's so much that you're being left out of as a viewer. And it used to be, this is the person who's the decoy boot, and this is the person who's going home. And like, you might think that the decoy boot is going home, but you certainly didn't think that like some random person over there is going home. And like, all of a sudden you as a viewer will be blindsided now. Whereas I think that it used to be a lot more linear.
Okay. I want to ask something about some of you newer guys who have participated in this, but what's up with these live tribals? Are you guys here a fan of them as a viewer or as a player or what?
Okay, this is what I think, especially without spoiling anything for Simon, but especially for Winners at War. I think that people are trying to nix Jeff out of the conversation, because we all know Jeff has the ability to influence certain things or how people feel about what you may or may not have said. So I think, at least I know for myself, tribal is a very tricky thing, because you don't want to make it seem like you're being a showboat, but then you also don't want to not be involved in all the conversations that are going on. So I know as a viewer, it's really, really frustrating to have whispers at tribal, but as a castaway, I think that you have to do it. You just have to do it. And I know it sucks. Maybe they can do subtitles or something in the future, but.
They did subtitles last episode, and that made it a lot more palpable. It made it more easy to digest. But I think Lauren's onto something, and this gets a little bit into the weeds about how production is able to infiltrate or maneuver in the midst of a game. But I think there is something to be said about producers knowing where the vote is going and how that comes into play at tribal. And if you actually do wait for the very last second, and I think last week's episode seemed to be a very live tribal, and I think you're able to maneuver a bit more and stay out of the producers. They're not going to influence as much. So I think Lauren's onto something, but it's kind of a little inappropriate to talk about too much.
Yeah, I didn't think about it even as much in terms of production as just in like, you want to wait till the last second. That's really hard to do on the island, because there's not like a set time, and you don't have a warning of when you're not allowed to talk anymore. So you want to do the last second there, but if that's not working, then all of a sudden the new norm is just like the last second is literally tribal council. It's the last second. We'll just get up and talk about it there. And I think they're just used to it now. It's just like, why would I make a plan with Tyler before tribal if I know someone's going to get up and talk at tribal? So I'm just going to wait at tribal too. And I do think at some point they're just going to have to make a rule that's like, listen, if you're going to have to talk out loud. You're going to have to do it out loud.
If you were in charge, answering as an individual, if you were in charge, would the next season begin with, whenever it begins, with Jeff saying, there will be no whispering at tribal council and everybody has to stay in your seat, so that they know? Like, I feel it's only fair if they know. Would you prohibit it, or would you allow it to continue and just let it go on as it is? We're up to you.
I want to prohibit whispering. Is that thumbs up for prohibiting?
Let's say prohibiting is thumbs up. Prohibiting whispers and moving around at tribal council is thumbs up. Allowing it is thumbs down. That I did the most confusing way it could be.
Double negative.
That was real double negative.
No, I agree.
Note taken.
There was an amazing.
It's just the two of us who think we should prohibit it.
No, I'm kind of with you guys. I
We're
think
old school, Eliza. That's why.
Because it sucks as a viewer. It sucks.
It's bad for the viewer.
Again, like, it's not that I need it to be like so obvious who's getting voted out. I like the surprise element of it, but I don't want to, spend 30 minutes of a 1-hour episode watching people hug their families and have no idea what the strategy was behind like a vote out.
I watch it and I'm like totally blindsided, but then I look at the jury and then I look at the other people in the game and they also don't know what just happened. So I'm just like, okay, I was part of this whole crazy thing that just happened. That was fun. And I absolutely can't hold it against a player. Like, they're doing it for money. They're trying to get something to happen. I do kind of like, you have to say it out loud. Like, people asked me a lot this week because of the whispering about our crazy live Julia Tribal Council. And like, there was no whispering in that. Like, I brought it up out loud and then we split off into groups, but it was still very open discussion. And I thought that was a lot of fun. But even that wasn't whispering and got a lot of negative feedback because people said they didn't know what was going on. And it's like, we didn't know what was going on. That's what happened.
Yeah, as a player, I want to be able to get up and control as much as I can control in the midst of what I can't control, which is a lot of it. As a viewer, I prefer if Jeff just said, "Hey, sit down, be quiet, and talk," or sit down and talk it out loud, and no quiet moments, no whispering at all.
Or do what Sophie did, which is like, hey, let's the 5 of us go talk right here, and then there can be a boom mic and a camera, and we can know what they're saying, even if it's outside the presence of the other half of the contestants left in the game. Like, it's really just about the viewer experience that I'm saying it. Obviously, I think players would want any opportunity to save themselves in that situation, and had it been that way when I was on, I'm sure I would have been the person like running around to everyone at Tribal Council.
Well, the thing is, little inside baseball, but like, you're not allowed to whisper at camp. They tell you not to because the boom mics can't pick it up, and people forget that it's a TV show, but you're not really supposed to. They'll give you the stink eye. So I figure if that rule exists at camp, a similar rule should exist at Tribal when like you are mic'd up. Sorry for the illusion, but like, we're mic'd up and they have you test to see if they can even hear you. So what's the point of being mic'd up if you're whispering? And I agree with Eliza, where I feel like a middle ground, maybe being able to scramble at Tribal, but saying, okay, you have to go into this little corner there and you have to speak loud enough for the mic to pick you up.
But then so as a castaway, I'm gonna play devil's advocate, because then that totally puts your true alliance out. That puts you guys completely out.
Yeah, good. So if you want to talk at Tribal, you have to be like, if we were in an alliance and I was like, hey, come here for a second, I want to say something to you. And it had to be, we could pretend like I just wanted to say something to you, like, hey, I'm really sorry, I'm writing your name down. You have to play it off. It becomes part of the game, but like, it can't be that like you just get to whisper to every single person. And
but what do you replace it with? You have to be careful what you wish for, because okay, so now you can't whisper at Tribal, which means you can't get up in a group, because what keeps me from being able to go follow your group? Then it's exactly what it is, everyone getting up and whispering. So you say no one can get up, you have to talk out loud. Well, now every single Tribal Council is going to turn into an argument of out loud people trying to convince other people to vote for them, even though they know they're going home. And it's going to be that every time, because you're still going to be waiting to the last second, and there'll be no mystery except for what production creates. Everyone will know what's going to happen, like our Julia Tribal, because no one sat down until we knew it was going to happen.
It'll be entertaining, that's for sure.
But it'll happen every Tribal.
That's not true. There are plenty of Tribals where we went in knowing exactly who was getting voted out, and it wasn't never going to change at Tribal.
If there was going to be whispering, it's going to turn into just like a big debate standoff, I guess.
Similar
if there
to
wasn't going to be whispering, then it wouldn't happen, maybe.
So like the live Tribal, there's like one of the other things that everyone talks about and argues about online is like amount of idols in the game, the sort of new types of idols, like role of idol play in the game. Any takes on current state of idol play in the game?
Rick Devens?
I'm pro idol.
Yeah, Rick.
as the person who has played more hidden idols than anyone in history, I'm pro idol. Only played half of them on myself. Yeah, I've played more than anyone ever. Myles, can you?
What's the number?
Verify. Fact
4.
check.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool. I did not know.
But I played one on Gavin and one on David. even I think it can be a little it can be a little much. I think you need advantages, but there's a lot. I'll open this up to everyone else.
I'm very excited for Simon, who's right here, and he's like doing his best to understand anything, to revisit this conversation in like 6 months after he's like gotten deep into Survivor, and he's gonna go, oh my, I can't, this is amazing. All these things are exploding my brain.
It's kind of, I'm just like passively absorbing it, and like, there are terms in game design concepts and strategic concepts I recognize without, it's actually kind of interesting and fun. And also, don't worry about spoilers. I've got 20 years worth of content to forget the details.
I was gonna say, the names mean nothing to you. So.
Yeah, by the time I get back to the current season, I will have forgotten everything everyone's talking about.
Unsurprisingly, I don't like all the twists. I mean, again, it's like my old school nature. Like, I think that it's become, outwit, outplay, outlast, which is like the underlying what Survivor's supposed to be all about. You're supposed to crown a winner because that person's supposed to have done those things. And now that's no longer required. No offense, Rick. But with stuff like Edge of Extinction, where you get voted out of the game and then you have the ability to come back. And again, then people are potentially voting for you in the finals who you didn't have to outwit or outplay or outlast. You actually got to bond with them on an island. And then the whole point is when you vote people out, they have to vote for you. You have to do it in such a way that it creates a situation where they'd want you to win. And I think like there are people who've been voted out with because they were by default voted out because every other person had some advantage of some sort. And I think it really just takes away from like the essence of what the game is.
I would love to see it go back to no idols, and maybe not tell the castaways that there aren't any idols. So just send them out there and then they think that there's idols and there aren't any. I think that could be really fun. I don't know about you guys, but when I had an idol, I felt like everyone knew I had one. So in my opinion, I would rather just not have had it. Like, I felt like people were looking at my bags, and like, I just felt like everyone, like it was, I was going to say something really inappropriate, but like a secret that everyone found out, and I didn't want them to know, but they could tell just by looking at me. So let's go back to
this premise, because I would love to see like how many people in a season where we, the audience, know there are no idols, try to make fake idols because they're like, I couldn't find any, but I'm just going to make one and go for it.
I think it's again like a careful what you wish for situation, because if you go back and watch season 1 now, it's like you can appreciate it for history, but it's really boring. Like, it's one tribe has the numbers and they vote out everyone else, and there's no strategy because there doesn't need to be. I think the reason that it's been around 40 years is because they've tried these things. But I'm also totally fine with trying a season with no idols, because that's what I disagree with Eliza in the sense, what I love about Survivor is it's not baseball. Like, you're not keeping the numbers. It doesn't have to be the same game for 100 years. You change it every season, and then you start over again. So it's like Edge of Extinction was fun for a season, and then you start over again. Go back to no idols for one season, and maybe it's boring, maybe it's the best thing ever, then you start over again. Like, I love that.
Like Gabby said, you could play it again and again, even with the same framework. You could play it again and again. It would never be the same. Even if you put the same 18 people, the same 20 people, even if you played it with those exact people, it still would never be the same if it was played twice. So I don't think you need all of that.
I think it could get
Max, that
super
was your idea, right?
redundant after 20 seasons. I think it would get really redundant after 40 seasons with no idols.
All right, I had a couple of quick, I have some Survivor, behind the scenes fanboy questions to ask the people who have been on the show. Hopefully not too embarrassing, but this is the stuff I've always wanted to ask people. Okay, sometimes you're watching the show and people have a confessional, or they're having an interaction with someone, and you're just like, and as a viewer, you're like, does this person not know that they're on national television, or what is happening in that moment? And my only theory is that when you're out there and you have these cameras around you, by day 20, you just sort of forget there are cameras. Is that the deal? Did they just kind of become fade into the background, or what's that experience like?
So I'm sure this has happened to a lot of people, but I remember specifically there was one moment where I don't know, I wasn't chosen to go on a reward challenge, even though I took her on one. And, and so at the time, Jeff is like, hey, Peih-Gee, you look a little upset. And I was like, no, minutes later, he is still asking me. He was like, no, you look really upset. Like, why don't you? And then, of course, you are upset, but you want to be a good sport, but you don't really feel like a good sport inside because you're starving. And eventually, you know, if he keeps picking at you enough, it comes out, the outburst, you cry, whatever, because you're so frustrated and hungry and starving. And of course, that's the quick cut that they show. So, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I know, obviously, I know I said those things and I'm on camera, but it's also one of these things where it took maybe 15 minutes of being pestered before it comes out too, and they don't show that.
I think you get used to the cameras because you become so depleted that there's only so much that your brain has the energy to pay attention to. And that quickly becomes the game and not how do I look or am I saying something embarrassing? Like it really draws you down to who you are. And, you know, there were moments I was conscious that like, oh yeah, I'm being filmed crying. They're definitely going to show it for the millionth time. If you haven't seen my season, I was very well known for crying almost every episode. And it's just like what Peih-Gee says, like when, like, obviously there were so many times I was being filmed not crying, but they're going to use what is more intriguing. But you know, never when the camera was filming me, I was aware of it, but like you're not going to be able to stop yourself from feeling your true emotions. So you just got to roll with it and focus on the game. And who cares if people see you do, you know, picking at your armpit or whatever you're doing.
I think probably within the first like few hours of starting the show, the cameras become the last thing on your mind. I mean, it's you're trying to build a shelter, find food, you know, not get voted out, keep track of everyone's conversations. Like you're not eating, you're not sleeping, and you really are just so worn down by everything that your emotions are really, you know, exposed and raw and laid bare. And I think that what people don't realize, or maybe they realize, but like it's kind of outside of the realm of what they're thinking about when they're watching a 42-minute episode, is that there are hundreds and hundreds of hours of footage boiled down to every 42-minute episode. So you are seeing such a tiny, tiny fraction of what actually goes on. And it is like us caught in our very worst moments or most explosive moments or best moments, depending on who it is. And there are certain people on where when people meet them in real life, they're like, wow, you're nothing like what you were on the show. Now, whether that's in a good way or a bad way, like people realize like that, you know, they can't make something that didn't happen exist. Like they can't fabricate something out of nowhere, but when they choose a narrative for you as a character, they are using moments that kind of back that up. And so you do just kind of, the cameras become such an afterthought when you're worried about eating and having enough water and not getting voted out.
Plus, they tend to cast people with no filters who are naturally like really open and chatty anyway. So and have no shame. Like I'm not, like, I think I'm pretty self-aware, but I'm also not really like that. I'm pretty open about stuff and I own a lot of things that I do. Like, you know what I mean? So I think most people that are cast on the show are kind of like that.
What about like if you know you get cast on Survivor? I know some people, there's a story of like they get the casting call like 72 hours before they have to like go out there, but usually you find out like fairly far in advance, right? Do people
really,
what do you?
It's really random.
Okay.
I had 5 days.
Yeah.
From when they told me I was on for sure until I left, I had 5 days.
Wow.
I had 8 weeks.
You do get an inkling, you know, after casting finals, you get an inkling because you have to doing medical tests and stuff like that. But yeah, I think I got the final call a month before.
I think
I got the call that I was not on season 37, David versus Goliath, Gabby season.
Oh man.
Yeah, I would have been a David too. So
You're not David-y enough. You're too.
Jeff told me I was going to be a David.
Really?
Because I even told him, I said, did I not get on the season because you didn't know if I was a David or a Goliath? Like, because I'm a news anchor, but in a small town. And he goes, oh no, you're a David.
That's what
I was like, oh,
yeah.
okay. And he's
I
like,
know,
no, we
isn't
needed
that-
storytellers in 38. He said 37 has a lot of storytellers, so we
Oh,
need you in
wow.
38.
Oh, we could have been buds.
I was almost on Micronesia. I feel like I could have been on Micronesia with Eliza.
I would love for them to bring back David versus Goliath, but with the twist that it's a 3-tribe version, so it's David versus Goliath versus Tyler's.
Yeah.
Did anyone
go
use
for
the
that.
time? So, but when you find out that you're cast, did anyone like do anything to prepare? Like I guess I have this fantasy of like if I got cast, I'd like learn how to make a fire or like start practicing swimming. I probably wouldn't. I'd probably put it off until the last minute, and then not do it. But
I had a friend
I
who
saw
was a
Lauren.
Division One swimmer.
Lauren made a video of doing fire, didn't she, Lauren?
Yeah, wait, Eliza, what were you saying?
No, I had a friend who
story
was. I was at Syracuse. And I got cast on my last day at finals. They brought me up to the producer suite. This was like, a very long time ago. So this was they kind of, I guess, made the decisions then. And they did like, I was like, am I on camera? Because it felt like one of those like American Idol moments where they were like, listen, everyone we bring out to finals is really special, and that's why you're here. And I was like, and they're like, unfortunately, not everyone can make the cast. And I was like, okay. I'm like, don't cry in front of them. Don't cry in front of them. They're like, listen, we hope you've had some fun out here. Like, I'm like, They're like, obviously the real fun comes from being on location, but not everyone can be. And I'm like, And they're like, but you will be. And I was like, what? Oh my God, oh my God. I started screaming, jumping up and down, like hugging the executive producers, like, and then I blacked out. I don't remember anything else that happened because I was just like just so beside myself, excited. And they gave me like 8 shots. Like I got all my shots like right in that moment. And then I flew back to school to like finish up the semester. And I knew I had all this time. So I had my friend who was a D1 swimmer at Syracuse training me. So we'd go to the pool every day at 7 a.m. I was like swimming like timed miles. I was doing, like we were doing stuff. So I was training physically and mentally, like doing logic games, puzzles, and swimming really.
Yes, Simon, it might be worth noting that even 20 years on the show, casting's extremely competitive. Like thousands and thousands of people apply, and the tiny sliver of people get to play, and a couple people get flown out to location as alternates, and then don't get to play. So yeah, it's a real Wonka golden ticket kind of situation.
What's funny, Eliza's story reminds me so much from an experience I had, probably 10 years ago back in Australia. And I was living with my Australian BFF, Dave, and his bucket list contained one item: appear on Deal or No Deal as a contestant. That was like, he loved that show. It was a big thing. And we got through an audition as a group of 4 friends went on, because you have to go as a group. And all these people are getting so excited. And we're like, yeah, cool, whatever. Like we've got jobs, we've got careers. We're like, it's fine. We've been on TV before, whatever. And then it gets through the day and they film like 7 episodes a day or something, and it whittles down, and then it's still not us. And we're like, yeah, if it's not us, it's cool. And then finally, last session of the day, it comes up and it's like, and now next thing, and we get named, and it's on video online somewhere. You just see us just lose our shit. We're just like, oh my God. Like, and we're like, yeah, we'll be cool, man. It's all right. Fine. Lost it. They know how to manipulate you. If their TV show knows anything about what they're doing, we're all manipulable. If there's enough time, enough pressure cooker, let us sweat long enough, and yeah, you'll lose it. No one's immune.
So Max, when I handed Jeff my tape in October, I don't go outside unless it's to like hike or go to the beach. So I took a survival class, and the family that I was nannying for my birthday and Christmas gift hired this guy that was teaching the survival class for me to come and like build shelters and sleep outside. The first time I slept outside, I cried. Surprise, surprise. Like Gabby, I also love to cry because when I feel something, I really feel it. And I did practice making fire. I guess it just didn't work for me in the long run. But yeah, I definitely think it's important. I was actually looking for like jungle gyms around LA too, to like swing around. I don't know what I thought I was gonna do, but I'm not active. So just tried to get active, be outside. I made like fishing spears, never use them because you're not allowed to just go fish in the ocean. And I think I took balancing training, balancing class. So the one immunity that I won, it's damn good that I won it because that was the one thing that I practiced before I went out there.
That's so interesting that you say that, because the one thing I regret not practicing more of was balancing. And I do yoga, so I had like a baseline, but I don't know if it was just on my season, but like every immunity we had was like balance on this small perch while doing this.
Not just your season.
Yeah, I know. Well, it was especially on my season. We had like 5 in a row, and I was like, where are the puzzles? And then all the puzzles came after I got voted out. But if I had any tips, any future Survivor players, it would be like balance. I think I was running miles because I was like, I'll increase my endurance. Stupid, because the most you run in Survivor is like a 20-yard sprint, and most of the time, unless it's like one of the longer obstacle courses near the final 5 or 4, which I didn't get to. And puzzles. I practiced slide puzzles. And one thing that I also regretted not doing, although it didn't matter for me, was they reuse so many puzzles in Survivor. And I mean, I watched Survivor and I looked at them, but what I should have done was literally print them out, trace them, memorize them, like just do them, just wrote, practice. And it is funny to me that didn't cross my mind, and now it seems so obvious.
There were a couple people on my season that did that. Ron and David did that, and it didn't really seem to help them. Like, I was really busy just like spending time with my kids, and I did a little bit of cardio, but like trying to get the bills paid. Like, I didn't do much to prepare at all, and I think it really helped. Like, I was so much less aware of I'd been watching a lot less Survivor than anyone. I was way less aware of Joe and Kelly and David and Aubrey's backstories, which really helped me interact with them. Like, I wasn't as scared of them. And then just like going into these challenges with like a clean mind and just letting it come to you, I think really helped. And body fat. I highly recommend having some body fat. You don't need as much as I had, but some helps a lot late in the game.
That did work in your favor, not the body fat, but the not being in your own head. And there are certain things in Survivor that you just can't prepare for, which is like being likable, which you are, and getting along with people. Those are not things you can practice for in puzzles. But yeah, they're it's not going to help you if you know how to do the fire puzzle in 3 seconds if you can't get along with people.
I have like 2 things to add about this too, because I feel like people always ask about the fire. They're like, didn't you practice? And I'm like, yeah, everyone I know practices and can make it at home. But I'm like, making it at home under ideal conditions is way different than being out there where humidity is at 100%. Everything's wet. You just have a bunch of old, wet, rotting vegetation to try to make a fire with. It's a totally different story. And I think the other thing with puzzles that a lot of people don't realize is that we are given rules for challenges that they do not say on air. So with puzzles, for example, a lot of them, you are not allowed to lay the puzzles on the ground and put pieces together there. You can only assemble the puzzle in the thing, which is a lot harder. You have to actually put the piece in next to it, and if it doesn't fit, you have to rearrange. You can't arrange it on the floor and then put it all in finished, because that doesn't make for good television. So it's, you know what I mean? And so a lot of times people are like, why are they doing it this way? Or why is it so slow? And I'm like, well, it's not like doing a puzzle at home, really. It's a different set of rules that we have to follow.
Okay, I don't want to keep anyone too long because we're way over the time that we asked everyone to hang out. But really quickly, maybe we could just go around and if anyone has any sort of like picks for winners at war, anyone who's like played really well. I'm also interested if anyone thinks there's like new strategies that emerge this season. And then I want to give everyone a chance to promote anything that they're working on or plug anything that they have. And then we're happy to like hang out and do magic tricks and continue talking. I just don't want anyone to, I want to give everyone a chance.
Max, I can tell you've got a deck of cards in front of you that's burning a hole in your attention.
What,
you can go ahead and you don't have to hide the cards. You can mess with the cards.
I didn't even know these were there.
How did you know? We also have
abracadabra.
So Max, you're a magician also.
I'm like a magic student. So I met Jordan a few years ago. Elan introduced me to Jordan at like a bar, and Jordan did a magic trick with 2 rubber bands, and that just changed my life. Like it just like broke my brain, and I was like, that's what I should be doing with my life. And I've spent almost every single day since then, like practicing magic and learning magic and hanging out with magicians, and yeah.
Awesome.
Man, if I was
Jordan,
on that
do you want
island,
to
I would
tell?
get, there's so many, I already know the magic tricks in the back of my head that I would practice if I was like on Extinction Island. I'd just spend all day just like working on get a
Wave
rock.
your
And,
hands and there's fire.
yeah.
Can one of you guys take me to that Magic Castle place?
Oh yeah. Well,
I want to go.
one day when it exists again. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I think you guys all have like a lifetime hookup to the Magic Castle.
Yeah.
That's literally like one of my dreams. I'm so excited about this.
You have to be invited. You have to be invited to go.
Yeah.
You guys can get to that. They will get you in. Don't worry.
Yeah,
Anytime.
we'll you all have
gotcha.
a standing lifetime invite to the castle.
Dun,
So
dun.
we'll make
Dun,
sure
dun,
Peter
dun,
does
dun.
intros.
You also all get a patented, I mean, plus Max if he's in town, but you get a patented Simon Jordan Magic Castle experience. You see sides of it you would never normally get on a normal invite.
Yeah, last
Oh, I'm
time,
so
just to add on to that, last time they took me to the Magic Castle, Jordan pulled us into a private room and did a whole entire magic show with a deck of exploding kittens cards as the prop. It was mind-blowing and phenomenal, and you are all in the right hands now, trust me.
That's every
awesome.
year there's the Magic Castle Awards show, and they give out it's like the Oscars of Magic. It's like one of the highest awards you can get in the world of magic. And they came to Simon and I to put a show together for like the gala show after the awards. And our whole premise was the only thing you have to do to be eligible to win an award is work a whole week at the castle, because they book every week, they book the rooms out. And so the premise of the show was in the back of all these performers' minds, you know, it's like great to do your show, but it's always like, might be nice to get nominated, maybe win a little something. But this was this special one-off show that only existed for one night. And we're like, so we can't win any awards for the show, which means we get to do whatever we want. And we just had the most fun, like raucous show of getting to just like break all the like norms and magic rules, because it was just like a free-for-all. So it was, and again, anytime you guys want to come, right now it's all kind of like on furlough. But hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll be back up and running.
Yeah, let's hope.
Field trip to the
Yeah,
castle.
absolutely.
I literally live across the street from it. It's about 100 yards that way, because I moved to the US and LA and Hollywood mainly because of that building and the community and the industry it represents here. That was why I came.
Free party at Simon's.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right.
Well, the apartment that my ceiling fell in a few days ago. It's been quite a week. We've had a lot's been going on. So party at the castle, yes. Simon's apartment.
Yeah, literally, like hours before we launched the Kickstarter, Simon texts a picture to all of us of just rubble in his kitchen because his ceiling had just collapsed because there was like a water leak, and then overnight they just completely destroyed it. And we're like,
and so while the photo's on my Instagram, if you want to see it, I just put it up there. And so while we're launching the Kickstarter, I'm dealing with like this construction zone in my kitchen. It was very like Aaron Brockovich of like everything.
But the Kickstarter is doing fantastic. Can we share what you guys are up to now? This is like day two of your This is day 2 of their Kickstarter. They launched yesterday. Or was it yesterday? Monday?
This is day 3.
Day 3. Okay, so what do you guys got?
We have something special to share with you guys that's from our very first. Simon, do you have?
I can screen share. Yeah, let me make this happen.
The background on this is I met Simon because of the Magic Castle. We were both hanging out, and one day we just sort of like saw each other performing and started talking, and we're like, let's like collab and hang out. And we would sort of do tag team magic where he would do a trick and I would do a trick, and maybe we would try and do tricks together. And that is sort of what ended up in us doing a show together for the award show. And then when we met Max, the 3 of us were all like, let's hang out and talk about magic. And this puzzle idea came out. And at the beginning, we had like a vague idea of what we wanted the puzzle to be, but we didn't have the full direction yet. So Max reached out to this artist, Sarah Bakan, who did one of the final 3 puzzles. And we just threw like all the ideas at her just to say, let's let's pack the prototype full of ideas. And there's one that we pulled out just to share with you on this specific call that we put into the prototype, just because we thought it'd be nerdy and fun to put it in there, that I think you'll get a special kick out of.
So I'm going to try and screen share this is the entire art for the prototype. Is that showing up?
There we go.
And again, the whole point is it's full of tiny details. So you can't really see many of the details at this scale. This is the whole like 28 by 21 inch puzzle. But if we zoom in to one section near the middle of it, if that works, hold up. Damn it. Preview, get it together.
So you guys, this is the puzzle that I beta tested, and every island, if you look closely, are like pop culture references to different islands that have been on pop culture and TV shows. So like Lost, or, you know, like just different famous references to that. It was really fun.
So this is around the middle area of the puzzle, Fire Island and this stuff. And then if we zoom in, wait a minute, what's this down here on the left?
The suspense is killing me.
Me too.
Is that showing?
No, not yet.
Wait a minute. Okay, I know how to do this. Hold on. Let me fix this. Damn it,
I can wait. I literally have no place else to be.
It's such an adventure.
Jordan, so did this not make it into the final?
Hey!
Yeah, there we go.
I wish someone would tell me what fire represents.
Oh my God.
There's a hidden Mickey castaway too right there.
Anyone from the Mickey Corporation is listening to this call. This is completely unrelated to any. There's no hidden any type of
no Disney references.
Wiggly lines.
Hey Max, just in case you were being serious, I just want you to know that fire represents your life.
Okay, well, there's a lot of information. We're gonna have to go to Myles for a fact check on that.
Fact check.
Can I tell you guys, I was so excited. I was doing this puzzle and I was piecing it together, and I'm like, wait a minute. I was like, is he putting out a torch? And I was like, oh my God, it's Survivor.
Does anyone have any hot winners at War Takes?
Tony's bringing it. It's a lot of
Oh
fun.
my God.
I love them all.
Tony was my first draft pick this season. My thought was there's a lot of people who are going to come in, play very hard, be very strategic. Like the game's going to start very immediately. And I thought there's one guy in this cast who nobody could account for in their strategy. And that's Tony. He's just too, like, he will defy any attempt to try to deal with him. So far, that's been a good pick. And then I also drafted Sandra, and now she's the only person who's not still earning points for me on Extinction. So
she really should have thought of that before she raised the mask.
Yeah.
I don't have a hot take, but Myles, do you have any like fire token backstory?
Yeah, how many do you want? I got a drawer
to
full of them over here. Yeah.
Were you involved in that at all, or was there discussions about that with John, or how did that come into play?
Yeah, well, I suppose it could depend on who you ask, but I basically sort of leveraged my friendship with Elan to try to get a phone call with Jeff to pitch some creative ideas. And that was about a year ago. And based on my fandom of a Korean competition show called The Genius, I had suggested that introducing an in-game currency into Survivor could add a really fun wrinkle. I don't know if anybody else was putting that idea out there at around the same time. The next thing I heard from it was when there was fire tokens on the show. So yeah, it's all my idea. Everything good came from me.
How do you know we think they're good?
That's the thing. If we like it, it was your idea. If we didn't like it, it was some other bozo.
It was Jordan's idea.
I love the fire token. I guess my hot take about season 40 is fire tokens are very cool. I would love to see the next season that has them, because like we were talking about earlier, I think when the players have the knowledge, who knows what they'll come up with. And this was sort of the introduction. I think it was perfect that winners who were very skilled players were playing with it, but there were some, there have been choices that I haven't agreed with fire tokens spent and different amounts that people are asking for. And I feel like we have not yet unlocked the full potential, and I am psyched to see what that ends up being.
Guys, I'm going to prove how magical I am, unfortunately, by making myself disappear. I gotta go read to the kids, but this has been a lot of fun, and I can't wait to see what happens with the puzzle.
Hey, Rick, do you have anything you want to plug or promote before you go?
You can follow me on social media, Rick_Devens. I'm doing an Esports for Beginners podcast, which has been a lot of fun for the RHOP network, RHAP, Rob Sesternino and them. But no, I'm just having a lot of fun taking care of the kids during this whole time we're living in.
Thanks, man. Thanks for joining.
It's been a lot of fun.
Rick.
Great seeing everybody, and I can't wait to see what happens with everything.
Thanks, Rick.
Myles and Elan, this may be a question for you guys, but Survivor has like a formal prohibition against prize splitting, right? You're not allowed to discuss prize splitting.
It's in the contract.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I always thought that would have been like it would have been interesting to watch, right? If people were like, if you make your final three and then there's like people start to put money behind it, would be pretty interesting. But I guess the fire tokens maybe will open up some of that strategy.
Yeah, it might have been. You can imagine all the things that would break.
I think it's a pretty fundamental rule. Like you need to have people feeling like they only have the one opportunity to win. Otherwise, it undercuts the tension.
Also, I think that there are legal ramifications to that, just in terms of gaming law and other things. I'm surprised. I mean, I guess they contracted it in because they have to, when people say, Gabby, I think you were saying that the players didn't know about the fire tokens, but they had to. So like it had to be something that was put in their contract, that it is a possibility that what happens is blah, blah, blah. And as the nerd lawyer, I like read every page of every contract. I pored over every possible thing, every line of my contracts, for both seasons of Survivor and for The Amazing Race, to kind of like have every detail in my mind of like what could happen. So people would be like, wait, Eliza, what happens if there's a tie at final 8? Okay, but how is that different from if there's a tie at final 4? And like back in the day, we didn't have, there was no fire challenge for third place, but what, and so I knew every rule and everything that existed, and it was all like pre-contracted out. And I guess they would have had to have put in the contract. The thing about fire tokens, the thing that I hate about them is the outsized impact it gives people who've already been voted out of the game. And so that's my problem with them. But I do think it's been really interesting seeing how people have used them, and even people critical of like Michelle's spending on the 50-50 token or whatever, and how she then used that and kind of gave away that she was using it on Jeremy. But like it's so interesting how that kind of like exposed this alliance, but also gave her this power position where she's like, look at me, I'm willing to use this thing on somebody else. So I've found it interesting in that it exists and people have been utilizing it, but I am opposed to it generally.
I mean,
it will be.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was just gonna say that one episode where Tony had to scrape together like 6 tokens and managed to somehow get them from people that were like gonna maybe like that he was maybe gonna vote out or whatever. I mean, like just cool scenes like that though, which you would not have gotten without it. Like I feel like it's just another tool that people have to play with. I've been kind of enjoying the fire tokens and like the extra twist that it adds.
I would be / will be excited to see what we can do, what can happen in a season of fire tokens when it's decoupled from Edge of Extinction, right? Like, I think if it's a closed economy and we don't have players out of the game impacting it, it'll be really interesting to see, you know, who will be the, you know, fill in the blank of the, you know, player who, you know, came up with an emergent strategy, you know, whether it's Russell Hance looking for idols without a clue or Richard Hatch forming alliances. Who is the, you know, going to be the first great innovator of the fire tokens? I'm excited to see. And it's not too late for it to happen within this season.
Should we maybe go through and do some quick, if anyone has stuff they want to promote, put their social media in, should we go, we can go down the line. Eliza, you want to tell us about the campaign?
So yeah, like I said, I'm running for Manhattan District Attorney, trying to reform our unjust criminal legal system in New York. I'm taking on a entrenched establishment incumbent who is wealthy, well-connected, powerful, and who has cut breaks to the, you know, wealthy and well-connected as well throughout his tenure as Manhattan DA. He's been there for he'll have been there for 12 years. There are no term limits. Contribution limits are $35,000 per individual donor, which is more than 10 times in a federal race. So, you know, we're taking on like a behemoth. We are certainly the Devens taking on a Goliath in this situation. But, you know, I feel really good about my insurgent campaign. Like, I think that it's really, the time for reform is now. People are recognizing it. You know, the jails and prisons in our country have become the epicenter of the COVID crisis and have the highest infection rate of anyone in the world. There's no ability to social distance. There's no access to soap and hand sanitizer. And you know, we just have a problem with over incarceration, and this COVID crisis has really like laid that bare in a pretty incredible way, like within weeks of launching my campaign, which I never could have anticipated. But would love to get everyone involved. You can find out more on ElizaOrlins.com. I'm Eliza Orlins on Twitter, eOrlins on Instagram.
And AOL.
And AOL, exactly.
I have a dumb question about your campaign.
Oh, great! I loved your announcement video. It was great.
Thank you. Thanks.
Really well done.
Thanks.
Can I ask a dumb question? So
There are no
I
dumb
really
questions.
like this. Okay, we'll see. Okay, great. I'm a dumb person. I'd like to ask a typical question. So I really like the show. I really like the show West Wing, because I think it portrays the thing about politics and campaigning and governance that are like interesting without the like stakes and the danger of real life. I'm curious, can you describe anybody who you have on your team supporting you who in the fictionalized version would be an interesting character?
Oh, wow. Gosh, I love West Wing, by the way. I love it. After 2016, I started rewatching it from season 1. It's like one of the great shows of all time. I have a member of my team who I know I can always go to for a negative reaction, like the most conservative person on my team, the most negative. If I want to comment on something, if I want to put something out, he'll always be the one to be like, well, why would you weigh in on that? That has nothing to do with your election. Like, I can just guarantee it's going to be like this hilariously negative reaction. And so he would be like the curmudgeon, like, you know, Toby, some kind of like negative, just always having the pessimistic view, well, everything's doomed, you know, how could this happen, view of everything.
And what can people do if they want to get involved in the campaign? Like, what do you need the most right now? Like donations, like, I don't know, like you mentioned you're doing virtual events. I don't really know what it's like to campaign right now.
Neither does anyone, as it turns out. It's such a strange time and nobody has any experience. And people are like, well, when we campaigned post hurricane, whatever, post 9/11, it's completely different. This is unprecedented. So we are doing virtual events. We did a Survivor event, which is like, makes me this out of the box candidate, that I do have this kind of interesting network of people who otherwise maybe wouldn't have ever gotten involved in a Manhattan DA race, but who got involved because they're interested in Survivor. And then they came for Survivor and then got the spiel on ending mass incarceration, which was awesome. So we had, a few hundred people, 380 something people last week on our Survivor event, which was awesome. And so, yeah, we just need people to share our social media, to get the message out, to donate if it's not a hardship right now, and to get their friends to get involved and help us out.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any like cool projects going on? Anything they want to plug? Social?
I do.
Yeah.
I've been doing Survivor recap shows on Talent Recap, which is a YouTube platform. I'm interviewing Bob Crowley tonight, season 17 winner. I interviewed Peih-Gee. That was really fun. And then I also have my own YouTube channel. You guys can follow literally everything I've been doing. I'm actually trying to move into true crime. Eliza, all the things that you were talking about, I hold very close to my heart. And a lot of people try to put me in a box. So I'm trying to step away from pop culture and really go after my passion, which is true crime. So I have a channel called A Crime a Week. You can find that. You can find me on Instagram at Lauren Ashley Beck. And yeah, you guys will have any, like, if you know of any like Dateline shows that need hosts, I'm your girl.
You should talk to Steve Helling about that too. Like Steve Helling does a bunch of crime shows.
Can you text me that, Peih-Gee?
Yeah, I'll hook you guys up. Steve is really dope, and he's like a huge Survivor fan. He's been covering Survivor for years.
Awesome.
Yeah, Steve would be a good resource. I haven't announced this yet, but even though I live in California, I wanted to share that I too am running for Manhattan DA. So I'm looking to build a team. If you guys know of anybody, we got a big uphill battle ahead of us, but I feel really good about it. So, there's an incumbent, and then there's this other young upstart who's like got a big hopes and dreams, and we're looking to crush all of it. So if you guys follow me on the T Freddy, need all
I think that
fingers
makes
crossed,
you
toes crossed, everything.
even more of a David.
Yeah, well, I'm on that third tribe, the Tyler tribe.
The Tyler
tribe. Yeah, but we're optimistic. We got big hopes and dreams.
The big question I have for you, Tyler, is when I'm casting my vote, is it, if I write your name down, is that good or bad?
Well, yeah, you shouldn't be writing my name down at all unless it's for the victory. And if anything, I'll split the money with you. Okay, it's in the contract, but I'll cut you a check, Jared.
I want at least 3 fire tokens for this.
I'll have to collect them from other people.
I think that's it for us.
Yeah, everyone has cool things, and I'm just here like, I have no YouTube channel. You can follow my stupid Twitter.
Gabby, don't lie. You and your boyfriend have been doing some hilarious stuff on
I'm very invested.
Yes, you can watch my boyfriend make questionable beverage decisions, such as drinking milk with every dinner on my Instagram at Pascuzzi, but I am in no way changing the world like other people on this call. So just, follow my Animal Crossing tweets.
They're very entertaining, and I'm very invested in Charlie's dietary habits.
Aren't we doing like some kind of Gal Gadot scene videos coming up soon that you're pioneering, Gab? You're doing a lot of good in the world.
I'm never going to be facetious on Twitter ever again. I posted a joke like, oh, don't you think we Survivor players should come together and sing an inspiring song, like referencing the horrible Gal Gadot, Imagine song? And people replied and they were like, I'm down. And I was like, guys, I am joking. I'm not that pretentious.
I would like to cosplay different scenes. I'm into that.
If you're not following Gabby on social media, you need to get on it because it's a good run.
The real question is, are you going to come together and sing the new theme song to Survivor or the old theme song to Survivor?
Right, that new pop song that only has one lyric that gets repeated every episode.
It's screaming up the charts. It's the jam of the summer, even though it's not summer yet.
So I don't have a lot to plug. Just you can follow me. It's my name, Peih-Gee. I have a jewelry company. You guys can check that out. It's LORADORJEWELRY. It's very long. It's Low Raider Jewelry. But one of the fun things that I've been kind of doing during this downtime is I started doing these reviews for like online puzzle experiences and online escape rooms for roomescapeartist.com, which is a website that reviews different escape rooms. And so because everyone's had to convert to like online versions of escape rooms and puzzle hunts, and there's so many out there and there's so many different formats, and I've been like playing all of them, and we've been giving our reviews. So if you guys want to know what's worth playing or what I consider fun, you can check that out. It's roomescapeartist.com.
Peih-Gee, I follow all your jewelry posts on Instagram, and you're my favorite jewelry content that I follow for sure.
Oh, thanks. It's
always just like you go through my Instagram and all of a sudden it's like a giant amazing crystal at some convention. I'm like, I don't know what this is, but I love it.
Oh, thank you. I have a painting account also. It's peihgeepaints.com, or not .com. It's just at Peih-Gee Paints.
Did you paint your background behind you?
I did not. I wish I did, and now I feel like I should paint one and then upload it and then use that. I just found
you should.
So yeah.
I can't. I'm kind of amazed that no one's made the Survivor Zoom background pack yet. I should probably get on that.
They don't have
the Survivor Twitter account. Yeah, the Survivor Twitter account released one.
Oh,
yes, they're
the only one that I've been able to.
No, they did. It's like it's got tribal council.
This is a really specific reference, but do you guys remember on Cochran's season where he would do the confessionals and there was this little rock and he was like in a little it was so the way they like positioned him, it was a very funny framing and he was just sort of sticking up out of this little.
About.
Yeah.
He like looks like he has a giant head and he's proportionate.
Yeah.
Deep cut, but I like it.
I had one more question for Myles. Myles, I noticed that a lot of the challenges that they are getting on Edge of Extinction are, to me, very escape room-ish. Are those part of your, I feel like I see Myles' influence in this. I didn't know if they were your puzzles, but they seem very escape room-ish.
No, I didn't know anything about Edge of Extinction or that there would be specific challenges. The consulting work that I did was just limited to the normal tribal and individual reward and immunity. That's the stuff that I brought in. Obviously, I have, a lot of editorial ideas about, what you could do like a room escape on Survivor. But yeah, if we have to spend time on Edge of Extinction, and this season we do, I think that they've put some interesting stuff on there.
I'm into it. And I want to say also for the record, I support Adam's podium idol play.
100%. I thought that was great.
For sure. Totally.
I would try. Yeah.
I would have done the same thing.
I was so upset when I saw that all these people were giving him a hard time or making fun of it. And I was like, it made total sense. It's the same symbol that he saw on another piece, and they've hidden idols in some totally bizarre places before. So I don't know why that seems like any stretch, and why wouldn't you try it?
Well, and didn't he say that on other seasons they've done that? Survivor South Africa, I think he said there was an idol. So I'll be damned if there's not an idol hidden at tribal going forward. And
you should watch that clip of it's like the exact situation, the clip from South Africa, which I saw on Twitter. I didn't know it existed, but that was one of my favorite scenes on Survivor in a really, really long time. I laughed so hard. I mean, it was just amazing. But you know what? Adam, I think, feels good about it. We talked afterwards and I was like, as someone who played a non-idol, I just feel like we need to talk about this. And he was like, what's so weird is I feel like I was hated the whole season. And now I'm like, that's the episode that made people love me. He's like, all these people came and were super supportive after that. And he's like, which was so unanticipated. But I'm glad that he's getting support. And it's ridiculous when people hate on reality TV contestants on the internet.
Max, where does playing podiums fall in your draft?
You know what I didn't realize until this season is that if your pick says the line in the episode, the title of the episode line, you get a bunch of points. so that's been my new favorite thing, is I like stand up and applaud when one of my people says the titular line of the episode. This is like the small pleasures in life. Okay, I'm gonna turn off our recording, and then Jordan and Simon, do people want to see a magic thing? I think Jordan and Simon might have gotten something together.
Yes.
And then I have a Survivor conspiracy theory to share, but I don't want to commit it to the recording.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Good, then we're gonna go dark.
I actually have a Lauren Survivor conspiracy theory to share.
We'll create one crazy backer level where it's like only one person gets to have access to this video.
Yeah.
Do you guys mind, because he's a huge board game nerd as well, if I invite my boyfriend, if we're done recording, to watch?
Yeah, please.
As long as he doesn't drink any milk.
Anyway.
It's prohibited from the house now.
Yeah,
okay, cool. I'm gonna yell up at him.
Yeah, grab him.
I think we're
Feel free to start. Don't wait for me, but I'm gonna go yell.
We're gonna do a magic trick though.
Yeah.
Okay,
do it.
when she comes back, as soon as she comes back, everybody react like you just saw the most insane magic trick you've ever seen in your life, and be like, we can't describe it. Yeah.
I love that.
I'll do
Just the
magic,
kind of thing
magic hands.
He made
Yeah,
here. Like,
Max, do you want to know? In my Survivor pool, the only person who was not drafted was Tony.
Here, just comes down here.
Was Tony?
He was not drafted by any,
Nope.
well, because it wasn't a draft. Everyone got to just pick people, and Tony's the only person not picked by a single person.
We had Denise was the only person in our pool who wasn't picked this season. Big mistake.
That was my pick. Denise
is my winner. Denise was like my winner pick going into the season.
It could still happen. There's a lot of game left to play.
Yeah. Still in it.
Hey Max, are we still recording?
Yeah, we were gonna do the magic trick, and then I'll hit stop.
Okay.
Is that cool?
Does anyone happen to have a deck of cards nearby? That's not Max, because he's a magician. We don't.
I can scare one up.
You got one?
Yeah. You want me to go grab it? It's like in the other room.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have any. Do you? Can I get some? Like,
we only need one person with a deck of cards, and this will work.
Oh, cards?
Cards.
Yeah, we have cards.
We need specifically like a group of like 9-10 cards, something like that.
Should we get them?
Yeah, go get the cards. I thought you said dogs for some reason. Like I
have 10 dogs.
Yeah, I need 10
dogs barking during the trick, and it would ruin everything.
All right. Well, we have.
Miles has some.
I think Myles has the deck.
Sure, I have cards
Game
somewhere.
designer.
Right. Myles. Well, yeah. Have him come back, because we'll do this with Myles. Simon, do you want to?
You can do this. I'm all right. I'm setting stuff up.
Okay. All right. Oh boy. Here we go. This is gonna be.
Was this your card?
We're gonna try something. We're gonna see if it's gonna work. It's gonna be really fun.
Was this your card?
So Myles, can you set your camera such a way that if you put the cards on a surface, we can see the cards?
Sure. I will try.
Great.
Let me move my dildo collection off the bed.
Also, by the way, I'm not bored. I'm just very sleep deprived. I keep yawning. This is great. You all seem great. I'm gonna watch your TV show. It's gonna be cool.
This is fantastic. Okay, so Myles, what you're gonna do is take like 9 random cards out of the deck. It doesn't matter what they are. You don't have to show us what they are right now. We just need 9 cards that are all different. This is thrilling.
Is he not supposed to show you?
Doesn't matter. It's fine as long as they're random. It's probably good that we know they're all random, and we're gonna have them face down eventually.
Oh, now you tell me. Okay, I'm gonna do different cards.
So this, Peih-Gee, you were saying something earlier about can you sort of reiterate what you were talking about earlier about in Survivor? You have to sometimes lie to people, and sometimes you're telling the truth, and it can get complicated, right? Because you're trying to social engineer everyone while everyone else is social engineering, and keep your own story straight and keep other people's stories straight, and kind of get an idea of, is this true? Is this a lie? And maybe it's true up until the last second, and then somebody changes their mind, and it's like, is it a lie? It's sort of in between, right?
Social deduction, social engineering. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna try and do something with the cards. And Simon, feel free to jump in here as well if you have any. Okay. So square those piles up so we have like sort of 3 piles of 3. And you're gonna, let's see, this can be
neat piles.
Yeah.
Ugh.
You might need both hands for this. Is that not gonna work?
Yeah, you will need both hands for this. That is correct.
Okay, give me a second.
Get it together, Myles.
Just hold it in your mouth. and
Is it
like-
normal to abuse the volunteer in a magic trick? I haven't been to the castle for a little while.
You can tell by the production of what's going on that Myles had no idea that we were going to do this.
Well, wait,
All very surprising.
Gabby, maybe Gabby and Charlie could do it if they have two hands.
Here we go.
Oh, did I just get fired? I'm being fired from the magic trick.
No,
This is
I-
great.
Your assistant isn't as cute as Gabby's assistant. I'm sorry.
I just want to make it very clear that this is, if it wasn't already, that this clearly was not set. Myles, we did not set this up ahead of time. You had no idea we were going to do this. Right? Okay. So
Myles, you got to make them clean.
That's perfect. Myles, I want you to
Christ.
one of those packs.
Look at those immaculate piles. Those are gorgeous.
Oh my
No,
God.
they're not good. They're not good, you guys. These fucking suck. These are bad Myles piles.
Myles
There you go.
piles. Myles, pick up.
I just gave your magic trick a name.
Myles piles. That's perfect. You're gonna pick up one of the piles and you're just gonna give it a mix. And then when you're done mixing, when you're happy, you're gonna stop.
Okay.
Yep.
Well,
then
I
you're
wouldn't
gonna-
say I'm happy, but I'll stop.
You're gonna take a peek at that bottom card and you're gonna remember what that card is. Got
We
it?
can
I'm
see
aware
in
of
the
the mirror
reflection.
behind me. Okay. Yeah, I'm aware of it. Yeah.
And really take a moment. Really get that in your memory. Make sure
Yeah,
you're going to know that again.
And then you're gonna take that pile and you're just gonna drop it on either of the two piles. It's up to you. Fantastic.
Simon, it's good that you said that because I very nearly just looked at it, went like, yeah, and then forgot to like make
Don't
a
worry.
mental note
We've-
of what
we've
the
all
card
been
is. So
there.
you've clearly done this before, yeah.
We've all been there.
Okay. Now there's two piles left. You're gonna pick up one of the two piles. It's up to you. Pick up one of the two and drop it on the remaining pile. Fantastic. So I think we can agree that if you had some choices to make, and if you had made different choices, we would have had a different arrangement than we do right now in this one packet. Does that seem fair?
Agreed.
Agreed. Okay.
Fact check.
Fact check. So you're gonna pick up the cards. Got it. And I'm gonna ask you 3 questions about your card. Now they're always the same 3 questions. It's perfect timing, right? So
Is that the prestige?
It's the prestige. Wait, okay, it's gone now. That was the misdirection. We're gonna ask you it's always the same. The same 3 questions are: what is the value of your card? What is the suit of your card? And the twist, because there's always a twist, is you're gonna get to lie or tell the truth for those questions. And at the end, the third question is I'm gonna ask if you lied or if you told the truth. Now you can try.
Do I get to lie about that question also?
Absolutely.
Oh, of course.
And you also lie. You may meta lie.
You may meta lie about lying or telling the truth. Now, there's a third option, which is you might lie on one and tell the truth on the other. So that would be lie.
Hang on one second, team. Hang on a moment. Sorry.
Magic is hard, you guys.
Magic's hard. Surprisingly hard.
It's funny how this is sort of the Zoom version of doing a show at a big corporate event, and then they serve dinner halfway through your act. And you're like, and it happens all the time at every single corporate event. You tell them.
I'm back.
Fantastic. Okay.
Do you still remember the card, Myles?
So
I do. Thank you for asking. Yeah, because your direction was so good that I still remember.
So we're gonna spell the cards one letter per one card onto the table. First question is, what is the value of the card? Now the first part of that is always the. It's like the 6 of spades or the 4 of diamonds, something like that, right? So we're gonna spell the in just one card, THE, onto the table.
Face down into one pile.
Yeah.
Face down into one pile. Okay,
Yeah,
and
so
I can lie.
Well, there's no lying about the, right? So the is always the. So deal, T, then H, then E for the. Then you're going to drop the rest of the cards on top. Perfect. Now pick up the cards. Now we're going to do the same thing. This time I'm going to ask you what the value of your card was. But remember, you can lie or tell the truth. You can lie or tell the truth. So what was the value of your card, Myles?
7.
Oof. Now, Survivor's here. Do you think Myles was lying or telling the truth? What's your gut feeling?
He lying.
Lying.
He's a liar.
Okay. You're going to spell out 7. S-E-V-E-N, 1 card for each.
Hi, Avalon.
S-E-V.
And then drop the rest of the cards on top. Pick them up. And now of course, it's the 7, maybe, maybe not, of. So we never lie about of. So O-F. Can't lie about of. Drop the rest on top. Great. And then we're going to do the value. So it's either going to be clubs, spades, diamonds, or hearts. And again, you can lie or tell the truth. So what was the value of your card? You can lie or tell the truth.
The suit of your card.
The suit. So the suit.
Clubs.
Clubs. What do we think? Did he sound confident? Did he sound not confident? Was it fake confidence?
I feel like there was a hesitation before the confidence, so I feel like that was a lie.
Maybe.
No, I think it was true.
That was purposeful. He's telling the truth.
All right. Well, Myles, you said it was clubs, so we're going to spell clubs. 1 card. C-L-U-B-S. And drop the rest on top. And now the money question. Did you lie? Did you tell the truth? Or was it both? And again, you can lie or tell the truth on this question. So wait, before you do, what everyone get in your guesses right now. Did he lie, tell the truth, or did he do both?
Both.
Mix.
Lie.
Both.
Both.
All right. So Myles, again, you can lie or tell the truth. Which was it?
Both of my answers were truthful.
Ooh.
All right.
All right. So you were telling the truth. So we're going to spell truth. So T-R-U-T-H. And hold on to that card right there, the H that you just dealt. Yep. And now truthfully, what was the card that you picked?
7 of clubs. I was telling the truth.
You were telling the truth the whole way. And go ahead and turn that over because it always comes out in the cards.
Holy shit.
Oh.
Oh my God.
What?
Stop it right now. I like when Jordan amazed himself.
I